Welcome to Create and Flow, the show, your go-to space for creative conversations, entrepreneurial hacks, and behind-the-scenes looks at how I build a thriving community rooted in reciprocity. From lifestyle vlogs to deep dives into creative flow alchemy, I'm here to help you hit the reset on your creativity and remind you what's possible when you believe wholeheartedly that you deserve the life you desire. Coming up on this episode of Create and Flow. At what level of impact do I want to affect change? Right? Number one. That's number one. Number two, where have I given myself the ability to experiment and play with my ideas enough to know? Being underestimated is something I've faced throughout my journey, but it's also been one of my greatest sources of strength. Today, I want to pay homage to someone who embodies resilience, determination, and the power of pushing through. My mentor and coach, Arlan Hamilton. Because I know that life gets heavy and we all have our doubts and insecurities. One of my biggest insecurities is that maybe because something is better than nothing. At least that's what I believe. And so here I am recording this about me video, which I don't know everything that I'm going to say to y'all. I'm just going to kind of wing it. But I did write down some notes, so come on this journey with me. My name is Rachel Ray Henry. I am the founder of Creative Flow School. I am also a just everyday creative, someone who lives and breathes creativity. I have been on this journey for as long as I can remember, from being a child to now owning and operating my business. And what I can tell you is it has been nothing short of a miracle that I am where I am and that I am who I am today. So I want to take you through some of the reasons why I think you might want to check out my channel and get to know me, because I have a lot of gems to share. I like to call them wisdom nuggets, just gifts that I believe I have learned on this journey while connecting with other creators, other people. I like to say that those convergences or those moments where I have come together with folks are called possibility points. So on this channel, you're going to hear me always talking about how grateful I am to be here, how everything is divine, how God has blessed me with relationships as my number one currency, and just how I believe creativity, I know that it is a life force, and therefore it's something that we all can partake in. You are never, ever too old or too young to take advantage of your creativity. You don't need to be an artist. You don't need to be a performer to be a creative. And I think if there's anything I want you to do is to be inspired, to know that you have purpose here. And we can draw the connection between your purpose and your passion into something so powerful and so impactful that only you could have done it. So that's what I'm going to take you through. But in order to take you forward, let's take a little look back where it all started. I was born in 1990 in Detroit, what I like to say, the grit, the grind, and the glory of Detroit. And during that time, the whole world was changing. I was born at the boom of the technological shift that we now see, which is like taking over the media, taking over digital art as we see it, or digital media as we know it. And I never thought that my first computer as a little girl, a VTech, that my grandfather purchased me, would be the catalyst for the work that I'm doing today. Nor did I think that things like kick clips and you get it. The point is, I'm a 90s baby through and through. R&B, you name it. It made me who I am. I was raised on the east side of Detroit through and through. So proud of it. I have a history of being a true Motown baby. My great grandmother Jacqueline went to school with Jackie Wilson, which was like one of my favorites growing up. Got a little bit of old soul. She taught me all about my history and gave me my love for music. I found out through her that my cousin Florence Fowler was the founding member of the Supremes, which we now know has been replaced by the Diana Ross. And so through and through, I always kind of knew that creativity would be a big part of my life, music especially. And while you all, hopefully one of the things that I'll get to do is share some of the behind the scenes as to how I use music and protect it and keep it for myself on this journey, while I share so many of my other gifts publicly. So anyway, 1990, east side of Detroit, boom. And again, being the oldest of so many children, I knew I wanted to forge my own path. And it was, how old was I? Maybe 20 something when I realized through some family talk that I took my first steps in the city of Chicago. So it is no wonder that when I turned 18, I packed my bags and hopped in an envoy with my dad and drove to Chicago to attend Columbia College Chicago, an art school, one that I thought would be the school of a lifetime. And sure enough, it really was. Unfortunately, like many others, I was ill prepared for that journey and found out, I want to say 3 weeks into school, with constant calls and knocks on my door, letters being sent, that I had to get up out of there because I couldn't afford it. Now, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Even though I had amazing grades, I finished my semester with straight A's and then, had to figure out what my next move was. It was there at Columbia that while I didn't finish with my 4-year degree, it was there that I learned to advocate for myself. I met with teachers and professors, and I forged my own path for the first time, fighting for myself so that I could finish my year. Even though I had to move out of the dorms, I was able to complete my year and figure out how to navigate that space for the first time as an adult, which was so daunting and so scary. That was the catalyst for the woman I am today, because it was that moment in time, that pivotal challenge that I had to navigate, that made me make a commitment to changing the way that students like me, who come from very little, who are exposed to maybe not as many opportunities, how we make decisions about our gifts, our talents, our skills, our desires, and then the choices that we make for how we want to be compensated for that. And that changed my life. It gave me purpose. I promised that one day I would come back and shift the way that education was, received for students like me, experienced, I should say, for students like me. And it has set me on a really cool journey, one that I'm really proud of, one that doesn't come without its weight. I always say I'm a proud college dropout student, not by choice, who then went 10 years later to return and get her degree. So that's Detroit. That's my Chicago chapter. And then in 2012, after, I think I worked maybe 6 jobs, started my own business, Rachel Kitty's Care and Crafts, which was like a souped up babysitting job that brought arts and crafts alongside with me, where I took care of rich folks' kids and made myself some money to finish my education at the time, or at least that was the plan. But somewhere in between 2008 and 2012, I came across an opportunity. I worked a bunch of retail jobs, like I said, started a child care service business. Then I came across an opportunity to get into direct sales as an administrative assistant. Little did I know, this girl from the east side of Detroit, who grew up through and through on the east, Motown baby, would land a role making a whole lot of money very fast without any experience doing that. But it was just divine. It was one of those circumstances that while I would not recommend it for anyone, it was very grimy, very gritty. Direct sales, I'm talking door to door. I ended up working at the front office for one. And within months, I moved from that front office to managing multiple offices and having assistants of my own. All of this, all under 21, I believe. And so it was a fast-paced, very grimy, but very high impact environment, high volume environment, that taught me really quickly that you have to be sharp in this world. No one's looking out for you if you don't look out for yourself. No one is going to hold your hand and make the path for you. You really have to have clear vision and a desire, and more importantly, you got to have faith that you can get through any circumstance and any experience, because that's what I had to learn working in that environment. It was a lot of money, a lot of craziness, but I learned so much. It was there that I learned that if I could do this for someone else, I can absolutely do this for me. So I want to say right after 21, I decided to quit my job. Now, I've never been an employee, ironically, except for when I worked retail before 21. I've always been a freelance, independent, creator, freelance, independent consultant. So it was no different. I terminated my contract and I walked away from that role in good standing. I'm still friends with a lot of those folks today, but I knew that all of the work that I had done to open up multiple offices across the country, I knew I could apply that for myself. I just didn't know how. And I'm still, at this time, a girl with no college degree. So I sat down, I asked God for some direction and clarity, and everything pointed back to my creative spirit. Every way, every skill that I wrote down, everything that I had learned, I knew that I could use if I could just figure out how to pull it together. Well, I had a plan and I went after that plan. And I had this impetus to start an entertainment blog because what I didn't tell you is that when I left and moved to Detroit and came to Chicago, I always wanted to go into journalism. My plan was to go to Northwestern, but my grades were real good in high school, but not that good for me to get a scholarship. So I knew I could afford to be there. But one of the things that I thought when I had this opportunity to become an entrepreneur was, what would it look like to bring the skills that other people have to the forefront and display the talent of my peers, so many that I had met at Columbia, onto a blog? And that's what I did. It was called Everyday Sunray. Now, to start this blog, I decided I would launch with a Grammy Award winning artist with absolutely no journalism experience, no relationships, like none of that. I just had big, okay, I just knew I had faith, big faith. Okay, I set a goal. I don't think anything is unattainable in this life, so I set a big goal, and I was like, I'm gonna get a Grammy Award winning artist to be my very first feature, and then I will roll out like my local peers, and I'm gonna try to keep this cadence of at least one celebrity slash large public figure on the blog to match each peer that I put, to show like our journeys are not that different. They're very similar. And so that's what I did for maybe 3 months. I think I had about a 3-month lead time. I went after all of the venues and spaces. And then I realized Chrisette Michelle was coming to Chicago at the time, to one of my favorite venues. And I was like, wait a minute, I know I can make this happen. So I went and emailed the PR team at the time, reached out to the venue. I was doing my best to try to get someone to like, let me in this thing. I'm knocking, I'm kicking, I'm screaming. Nothing. But here's a possibility point, one that I want to share with you. I remember it to this day. My cousin is a dancer, and she needed a place to rehearse. And it just so happened I had this like really big open floor layout apartment in Hyde Park, which was perfect for her to kind of do her runs back and forth. And she asked me if she could use my space along with a young woman who she was mentoring. And I said, sure. At that time, it was like not even a thought what was about to go down. Okay. So my cousin comes, she brings this young woman. The young woman's mother is with her. And we ended up talking, and they ended up in my apartment. I think I made some food, and it just becoming like a vibe. And that's such a Chicago thing. We ended up spending some time together. And this young woman's mother is asking me about what I'm doing, my background, what I'm working on. And I tell her how I open up my mouth and I just speak the truth. Like, I'm really working hard to do this blog called Everyday Sunray, all about people's light and their talent and displaying that. And my vision is that I want to get this Grammy Award winning artist, Chrisette Michelle. So little did I know, the woman who owned the PR agency was this young girl who's like prancing across my floor, her former babysitter. You cannot make this up. So sure enough, she picks up the phone, calls her at that very moment, and tells her like, hey, this amazing young woman is trying to reach out to you. She says she's emailed you, boom, hands the phone over to me. I have this quick conversation, and before you know it, boom, press passes. And I am able to interview the Chrisette Michelle in end of 12, because I think I launched the blog at the top of 2013. I could be wrong. It could be 2013, 14. But y'all, no, definitely 2012, 2013. It was crazy. I could not believe it. Like it wasn't luck. I don't believe in that. But like my openness and willingness to let someone come into my space to just get what they needed, I believe was the reason why I was gifted this opportunity. But the other part of that is I could have let them in and kind of closed my mouth, right? Kept that to myself. But instead I was like, let me talk about it proudly. I have courage. I have faith. I know I'm going to get what I need out of this situation, whether it works out this time or not. I'm still going to have the same level of confidence. And so that is what I believe attracted and drew in that opportunity. I think God really honored that. in my as a possibility, right? Honored that possibility point and turned it into something really beautiful. So that is what happened. I interviewed her. I kicked off my blog launch that I had already started promoting. Y'all, I'm crazy. I take really big risks. Sometimes they pay off, sometimes they don't, but I think that that's important in entrepreneurship. You got to know how to take risks. So that's my story of getting from like Detroit as a little girl to my very first journey into entrepreneurship. From 2012 to today, so much has transpired. And I hope that you will come along the journey with me because I have so much to share. I'm so much more than a speaker and an educator. I'm so much more than a project manager, all the titles that I've taken on in life. The truth is, I am a big, weird, wild, well creative who has a whole lot to share. And again, like I said in the beginning, the most important part of my work is recognizing that my relationships are the currency that makes my life as beautiful as it is. And so, I think today, the thing that I'll leave you with is this journey that I have studied, that is my own, and that it has been my clients, and that has been like, oh my goodness, so many other people's. I've been able to really sit with and give it identity. And that came along in 2020. So if you want to know more about like what happened after the blog and how I ended up starting my first consulting business, Sunray Consulting Group, which baby had no plans to start that. Like I was supposed to be running a blog, but suddenly I am 22, owning my own consulting agency and working with businesses all over Chicago, small, medium, and some large. Had no plan, no strategy, nothing but willingness, openness, and faith, right? So if you're interested in hearing about that, please let me know in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel if you feel like I have something for you, because I can almost promise that I do. If you just come along this ride with me, know that I was a little nervous to record this, but now that I have, I'm excited to give as much as I possibly can to remind you that you are so strong, so capable, and so worthy of creating the life that you desire. And thank you for trusting me to be a partner in your creativity on this journey. Welcome to the channel.
Being underestimated is something I've faced throughout my journey, but it's also been one of my greatest sources of strength. Today, I want to pay homage to someone who embodies resilience, determination, and the power of pushing through. My mentor and coach, Arlan Hamilton. Arlan is a multifaceted, self-made millionaire, a venture capitalist specialist, and a serial entrepreneur who has become a symbol of hope for so many, including me. She built her venture capital firm while homeless, literally getting it out of the mud. And she's shown that with passion, commitment, and an unwavering belief in diversity and inclusion, anything is possible. My journey with Arlan began when I first discovered her content, I think around 2019. From that moment, I knew I wanted to work with her one-on-one. When Arlan announced her live mastermind in LA during the summer of 2023, I jumped on it immediately. That was the first time I met her in person. See? Shortly after the mastermind, Arlan opened up her inner circle, her private VIP one-on-one coaching group. I knew I had to make the investment. I did. My first experience with the inner circle was at a private Laguna Beach meetup with Arlan and a small group of entrepreneurs, where we workshopped our ideas, shared our visions, and connected on a level that only happens in these intimate spaces. Fast forward to the spring of 2024, Arlan hosted her first ever major conference, Your First Million Live, at the Peacock Theater in LA. It was a gathering of brilliant minds with speakers like Issa Rae and Gary Vee and so many others who inspire us to build wealth as entrepreneurs. The best part? I got to invite several of my close friends and colleagues, including Nicole Jones, Veronica Shanklin, and Jasmine Ransom, to experience this magic with me. Because the road to my first million is not one that I'm walking on alone. It's my community and the incredible people that I work with who will help me achieve that goal. During the conference, I also hosted a private Leaders Lounge meetup at a beautiful rooftop restaurant in LA in partnership with my friend and fellow Inner Circle member, Rebecca Weaver. She's the founder of HR Uprise. Shout out to Rebecca. This wasn't just an opportunity to connect with my own community, it was a full circle moment. I got to meet one of my mentees, someone who reached out to me years ago for advice on Instagram, all about creative project management. So seeing her and celebrating her recent project management professional certification, aka PMP, credentials in that space was incredibly rewarding. I want to close this segment by sharing a glimpse of the behind the scenes work that goes into building communities like Creative Flow Reset. Here's a moment from one of my Inner Circle calls with Arlan, where she coached me and we really talk through the strategies that make community building both powerful and sustainable.
Do something called the Creative Flow Reset Club.
Okay.
So I am segmenting this community. I want to bring all of my creative entrepreneurs and leaders into one space who are not necessarily looking for workforce development support. They're looking for more lifestyle and productivity hacks, more hitting the reset if they felt that creative funk, which I know very well, get back in alignment, and then having fun doing it. Like that's probably the number one thing. So kind of back to that.
You can come in a little early, And then what's really exciting about it is that everything else that I'm doing, like 90% of what I'm doing now can point towards this.
Yes. That's why
all of the YouTube. Yeah, because it's like you just know, okay, I check it when I want to.
Yes.
They're going to talk to each other. So you really, when you build out the school, make it so people can post and have different places to go. And then the more you put in it, the more people have to roam around.
Yeah.
And then make it intentional. I'm treating mine like a true school, like a true academy, which is what I wanted to have for ever since I spoke at General Assembly. I have wanted to have where on Tuesdays you have this, on Thursdays you have this.
Yes.
That's what I'm building.
The road to my first million is paved with underestimation, rejection, and most importantly, the relentless pursuit of alignment. It's mentors like Arlan who remind me, and all of us, that what's meant for you will find you, as long as you keep showing up, refining your craft, believing in the possibilities, and being yourself. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
I'm obsessed with this color. Breadwinner by Fenty. Girl. Rihanna. Girl. So for this conversation, I want to have a really honest discussion around something that's been on my heart lately and just trying to find my way. I'm now 4 years going on. It'll be 4 years in a few weeks of Leverage Be Well Co., formerly known as, or I should say better known as, Creative Flow School. And I've had a lot of amazing growth, but I had to have a tough discussion with myself in the last few months as I'm pulling myself out of a pretty dark period and entering spring with renewed energy, which I'm super grateful for. But the conversation was on this discussion around being a full-time solopreneur versus really running a business. And neither of those things, let me be very clear, both of those are amazing. But I had to have an honest discussion with myself about which of the two do I want to do. Do I want to be a solopreneur? Do I want to continue that journey of making enough money to satisfy my needs, perhaps some of my legacy needs, and that's it? Or do I want to build something that potentially has the ability to live beyond me, to serve as a business, whether I keep it or I sell it, and it's something that can be built and fully acquired? Those are tough conversations. I don't know that every entrepreneur goes in thinking that. I know for me, I've been on this journey for a very long time, although this business is almost 4 years. So I have been in business and I have been an entrepreneur, a true solopreneur, with the support of teams, but typically freelance teams, not employees, right? For, all of my career. Let's just call it what it is. At every stage of my career, I was doing doing some form of entrepreneurship, but definitely since 2012. So when I look at that and look at all the lessons I've learned over the years, I think there are 3 really tangible like markers for what I'd like to achieve. And I think honing in on those 3 markers has helped me make the decision that I absolutely want to own a business, something that can create change systemically even, right? Ideally, what I'm creating is not just a business, but ideally a method, a framework that can be taught and replicated and, licensed even in the future. So that takes me out of the solopreneur space. So I think those 3 key things for me was, 1, at what level do I want to serve? Do I want to serve within my community or within a niche community, or do I want something that creates systemic change? That is one way that I've been able to make the determination that I would like to go into full-time business ownership. And that has definitely been a growth moment for me, because if I'm honest, and I think any entrepreneur who's been in the game for a while knows, I thought I was doing something until it was time to do something. I thought that I was making impact until I could see firsthand what making impact, even on the smallest level, like experiencing that, creates for me at least this hunger and this drive to want to do more. But being able to scale it and being able to scale that impact in a way that doesn't have the restriction of me, right? Like ultimately, at the end of the day, I get up every day and run my business. And so if I don't want to get up and do it, or if I'm going through a really hard time in my life, if I don't have the systems in place to scale for it to operationally run and thrive with or without me, then it is not quite yet in that trajectory for a sustainable business model. And so that's one of the big things that I've had to just get honest about in the last 4 years. And definitely in the last year, I'm making that decision to run Creative Flow School as a business. That was that first marker. It's like, I want systemic change. I want something that's going to definitely be able to reach the masses. How I go about that may meander. Like I might take different roads. I might experiment. And so that's my second point, is being able to say that you've done enough experimenting to know what it is you actually want to do. That would be my second marker. I've spent my years putting in my work. I've got my tens of thousands of hours in my field. And so while, yes, it may not be a perfect road or perfect package pathway, I can absolutely say I have tested and I have pivoted and I have adjusted. I'm resilient and because of that, I can come in and offer a perspective that a lot of folks don't have if they give up, or if life just takes them off the path, or if they decide that entrepreneurship, solopreneurship, business ownership is just not for them. There is nothing wrong with that. And also being able to say you've experimented enough to know what type of business model, what type of way you want to show up is key. So again, my first marker is all about like being able to say, I want to create something that is that's going to create systemic impact. The second is that I have pivoted and changed and experimented and beta tested enough to know what I'm talking about and to know what actual problems my business will solve in the market. And 3, and perhaps the most important, arguably what I think I stand for more than anything, is, does it light you up? Because to say that you want to go from solopreneur to business owner is to say that you want to take on the ownership of carrying something and like it's your child, raising it. And so you got to really want to do that. And there are iterations of my business in the past that didn't light me up. And I had to be honest about that. But I have absolutely hit my stride. I have found my sweet spot. And I know without a doubt that this is the work that I came here to do. It may change face. Branding may change. Names and titles may change. Roles may shift. Team members, they may come and go. But ultimately, the thread, right? The heart of my business is only going to come from me. And so those are 3, what I would say are qualitative markers that I've been able to hone in on to help me make a clear decision about what it is I want to run. And that is the decision that I have made for Creative Flow School and for Rachel, right? For me. Now, an alternative to that, which I stand on 100%, is being a dual career creative, someone who 100% has an amazing full-time role that they wear proudly, that they lead effectively in, but then they also are building a side hustle, something that has the potential to make millions. Let's be clear. There's no financial number that makes you a more successful solopreneur or small business owner other than the one that you set for yourself. So you can work a full-time role as an executive, which many of my clients are. I have clients who are at the executive level of some of the biggest organizations, nonprofits, systems in America. Yet many of them are thought leaders who are making the transition into consulting. And so the work that I do with them is to help them define what that signature kind of sauce is and take that thought leadership expertise and build that into a package, something that they can deliver. And ideally, they can do it without conflicting with their 9 to 5. Yes, takes that extra time. Yes, you got to put in that work, but it is a powerful role to take on as a solopreneur, as a side hustlepreneur, or as a second, a dual career creative. Both are valid and both are like totally commendable. So I just say, if you are unsure about where you want to fall, if you're a newer entrepreneur, or maybe you're someone who's like in that pivot season, give yourself some grace. Ask yourself those 3 questions. At what level of impact do I want to affect change? Right? Number 1. That's number 1. Number 2, where have I given myself the ability to experiment and play with my ideas enough to know that I've ran the iterations and this is what I do, right? Owning that, being very clear about what it is that you bring to the table and what you provide. And then number 3, does it actually bring you joy? Can you see yourself committing to this for the next 5, 10, 50 plus years? That's the question you got to ask yourself. And when it's all said and done, if none of those things are leading you to fully running a business as a CEO or COO or any C-suite level management, what I would say to you is you have the potential to build something absolutely beautiful on the side that can still surpass your full-time role, but keep you fulfilled, right? That allows you to do it as you desire, pause and play as you want, and not affect that stability within your business. One of my favorite things that I saw, one of my mentors, Arlan Hamilton, shared in one of her videos recently was like when to quit your 9 to 5. And perhaps quitting your 9 to 5 is not even in your trajectory. You can keep your 9 to 5 and you can have a successful $1 million business. It's true. So make sure ultimately when you're creating, that you're creating with these things in mind, that whatever you're pouring your resources in, you have this in mind. These are things that I wish someone had told me before, because I always jumped in and ran in full-fledged like I am a business owner. But the truth is, for the first chunk of my career, I was simply finding my way. So I look forward to continuing to show y'all more behind the scenes and having these conversations, these intimate, like uncut conversations that I feel like are necessary. And if you have any questions about like anything I've talked about, please let me know in the comments, because I want to continue to give you what you want, not just what I think you want to hear. Please like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Like maybe there's someone who you feel like, yeah, they're entering this pivot season, or maybe they're starting their entrepreneurial journey. Set them up with success and have them take the quiz on our website, creativeflowschool.com, so they can find out what season they're in, which will also help guide them in their decision-making about what their next big move is. All right. I think just to reiterate that question, like, I'm coming to your session and you want me to see that their story and everything, so that I can
connecting back to the argument of I don't have a story. Nobody cares what I have to say. Like, it's not special. Everybody knows what this is. There's nothing spectacular about this. So I need to move that to the beginning on like everything is, and that'll be another like a part of my closing argument. The more mundane, the more relatable the story is.
So I don't know where you're at with your description like when you think about how you package this up. But the one thing I would lean heavily on is something around saying, if you ever felt like what you have to say doesn't matter, I'm going to show you that that's not true. I'm going to show you, one, that it does matter, and two, how to own that story and say it in a way that like reaches people, impacts people, touches people, inspires people, no matter how mundane you think it is.
Yeah.
Something along that, because then it's, I mean, and I more so mean, like, you know how we talked about your abstract, like that's just the thing that I would want to read to come to the session, or that's the thing that I would want to read to know that it's something I'm leaving with, no matter what you take us on, like you take us however you want to get us there, but at the end,
I need to read that to know, like, I need to bring a journal for this.
Yeah, I need to, or especially if I'm that quiet, like I never speak up, because I feel like there's a girl on YouTube that you probably saw this, she went viral, and the title is like, I'm a 30-year-old woman with no life, and this is with no life and no self-worth, and this is my advice to young girls in there, something like that. And she went on this whole video about basically, I'm not where I want to be, and if somebody had given me this advice, I would be somewhere different. And I think that is so powerful, because I don't know her journey, but I imagine that it took a lot of courage to just open up and say that. So it's a lot of people that's just like doing this right now.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. That is helpful.
Yeah. But anyway, back to your point. I think the first one was like, you should do it, sparked your journey. So maybe that first point is something around when you get the itch, like, or when the opportunity strikes, don't overthink it even, maybe. Something like that. Like, if
following your first mind.
Fire, go after it.
Yeah. Follow your first mind.
Yep.
That's what I'm don't overthink it.
And even I would even argue it's not even your first mind. It was a statement someone made that made you inspired. So like, what was the feeling? Can you capture that in words?
Ooh. I'm gonna find it. I'm reading this.
I love Big Magic.
Okay.
I love it. I read it all the time.
How she vividly described like the spark of inspiration. I was like, that was it.
And if you don't follow it, how it's gonna go down the street to somebody else, and potentially someone else is gonna have to birth that thing, but it will hang out with you for as long as it can.
Yes, and it'd be like, hey y'all, hey,
okay,
right here. But like that was it, how she. I'm gonna find the page because I meant to put a post-it note on it. But that spark of inspiration, and with the story of Ken, like it just didn't leave me. And I'll be like, I don't understand why I care so much. Like, I didn't live there. I didn't experience the city, but I don't know why this is impacting me so much, even to the point where there would be times where I would try to be like, I'm not doing this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then another door would open, or a resource would come, or somebody would come in my network and be like, I know, like it would always be like a pebble, like guiding me, even when I didn't know what I was doing. So to tie that back into like the art of story, like, that just doesn't leave you, and you don't really understand why, but you know that you're supposed to do something with it. In this regard, I knew that I was supposed to be a vessel for this story. It wasn't going to leave me until it was done. I
wrote down, your story isn't just about you. And so maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's the bullet. Like, your story isn't just about you.
Yes, because when I go back to like Kinlock banquets and stuff, and they'll tell me like, Alana, thank you so much for helping bring us together. Thank you so much for telling our story to the world and letting people know like how cool we are and how amazing our culture is and our city is. Like, thank you for reminding us that it's not just our generation. Like, I'm the youngest one in the room. So yes, it's not just about you. And sometimes you are the vessel to open that door for somebody. And not just Kinlock. Like, when I talk about IVF, when I talk about, my ulcerative colitis journey, and for people who are like, I try to explain it to people who don't understand or can't relate, but thank you for bringing voice to it. Yes.
So I'm hearing one definite strong point is your story isn't just about you, however you word it. The fact is like, it automatically go for me as a listener. I would go, okay, so even if I don't think my story is valuable, it's probably a part of somebody else's, because you going through this story of Kinlock and this journey wasn't just about you becoming a filmmaker, but it was about bringing community together.
Mm-hmm.
And like by you doing that, you figured out more of what your purpose work was.
Yes. I like this. You got my brain spinning.
Good. Okay. So, all right. So then what would the next thing be? Once you get me to see that, what would the next thing you want me to really focus in on? Like, what's the next call to action in this journey?
Can you define creativity, or what does it mean to be creative?
Absolutely. So to me, creativity means getting back to the garden. It's interesting that we're sitting in the garden, but it means getting back to the garden. I have been studying Genesis, and I've realized the creativity that happened in the garden, right? So we know that this is a creation story. We know that God, began to create heaven and earth. He began to separate the dark from the night. He began to form, everything on earth, including us as man and woman. And I believe that He is a true, of course, definition, and He gave us the same power, the same creative ability. And so creativity to me means getting back to the original design, the place where God called you, and that is to create and be the person who shows up in His image.
And it happened that year. There was such a high demand that all the guys were out of, like, the whole city was out of guys. So
Wow.
they had to take rookies like us. But I wasn't probably certified for a rookie at that time. I was probably still like an amateur. So I had one of my mates, he was kind of like booked twice for the same dates, and he couldn't. So he really took a bullet for me, because he was told to recommend like a professional guy. Mm-hmm. And he recommended me. He recommended me not having gone to the bush even once.
Wow.
Well, I had gone to the bush, but not like working, like professionally, yeah?
Right.
So I remember, I went to the office, because it's high season, nobody has time to interview you. Is that like, okay, cool, this is where you're gonna go pick up the clients. Actually, we're actually picking up the clients in the north, like, so you exit Serengeti and you head like a bit more north. It's kind of like in the border from Kenya, because the clients were coming from Kenya. And I was like, I remember like receiving all the paper itineraries and everything, man. I was like, what did I get myself into? I was like, the only thing that these people helped me out is they just told me like, this is where you can catch the bus.
Wow.
And this is the place that you need to go, and this is the number of the driver that you're gonna meet, because the driver is actually there. So again, like, I was like, all right, I just took my chances. And I remember how I knew that this was one thing that I would want to do for the rest of my life. Is I remember I can picture it right now. Yeah, we're just like descending from this place, and if you're going to Serengeti by south, it's called the Nabi Gate. So it's kind of like a hill. So when you kind of like exiting the gate, entering the national park, Serengeti, through the south, you're kind of like going down, and then you go through the plains down. So I remember like as we're like going down, and I was just like looking out. I was like in the side mirror. I was just looking. I just felt this kind of like happiness and excitement, and that it was kind of like before, man. Like,
Wow.
It's a feeling that I've never managed to feel, and it's the only feeling that I only get to feel whenever I'm there. Yeah, and I remember seeing it. I was like, dang. But at the same time, I there's one thing in my mind. I told myself, like, I have to now pay attention of these places, because these guests are gonna, they're coming at me believing that I'm a professional. You know what I mean? And I remember at that time I was only like 6 months in speaking Spanish, so I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna get cooked. So yeah, so just story short, receive the clients. I remember like as we're kind of like heading out to the national park, the conversations that we're having with these people were like, like just normal conversations. You know, they're asking you about, you know, the life here, you know, like just like normal. It was more like more of a cultural entertainment. It was nothing stiff. It was not like how you were taught in college, like, yo, you know what I mean? An elephant weighs X amount of tons, and you know what I mean, like all that geeky stuff. You know, I'm not saying that the facts aren't important, but I'm just saying, you know, being on an African safari is just about, you know, interchanging experiences and you know what I mean. So to be honest, I feel like, again, I was lucky that the guests that I had were super cool. It was actually there was a family, it was a Spanish family, and they were coming to Tanzania actually for the second time. So I was lucky.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I was lucky.
Isn't it?
I was lucky.
Amazing.
Yeah, I was lucky, and you know, they were just coming. You know, they came in after, because the first time they came in was their honeymoon. So this time they came in with their kids. So that was probably like maybe 10 years after.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, and you know, it's so funny because that safari went on autopilot.
Yeah, right. You know, they kind of already. They were probably more.
All I had to do is, you know, I feel like all I had to do was just be, you know, just be like. Just be like all I had to do was just exchange whatever I know and just give it to them, because majority of the stuff they already knew. You know what I mean? Like probably the same lines that they were here 10 years ago. Same. You know. But you know, like I think here's a story I never told nobody. I remember as we're leaving the guests, you know, I remember like the wife, you know, literally as we're saying goodbye, she was literally crying. Literally, like, we're there, man. We had such a huge moment together, and you know, I remember them telling me, you know what, we wish you all the best. You know, you're a good dude, man. You know, we love your work. We love how you took care of us. You know what I mean? I was like, damn, man.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I was like, wow. I'm like, hey, man, I'm glad I didn't fumble this bag. You know what I mean? Wow. You know, and I feel like for me, that's when my purpose was complete. Yeah, because I feel like I knew being in the wild, that's where I felt more alive, and I knew being on safari, that's where I feel like I could be at my best in terms of offering service to everybody.
Welcome to Create With Me, where I take you behind the scenes of work that fuels my passion and creativity. Today, I'm sharing my journey with Dementia Care Warriors, an organization that's incredibly close to my heart. My journey with Dementia Care Warriors, or DCW, began as a strategic planning specialist, but my connection goes much deeper. I was a caregiver for my late Aunt Carolyn, and I know firsthand the emotional and physical challenges caregivers face. That experience made joining DCW a natural choice for me. After 3 years on the board, I'm now honored to serve as the board chair, while I continue to advocate for the often overlooked heroes, family caregivers. Veronica, our founder, has an incredible story of sacrifice and love. Having cared for both her grandmother and now her mother full-time, she left her career to dedicate herself fully to this mission and built DCW into a nonprofit that provides essential, non-medical support to those living with dementia, especially family caregivers. Our mission at DCW is to provide non-medical assistance and resources to the family caregivers who are living with Alzheimer's-related dementia. We're dedicated to caring for the caregiver by giving you the space to breathe and the resources you need to thrive. We do this by offering respite scholarships, support groups, both in person and virtual, and a range of resources designed to help caregivers thrive while caring for their loved ones. Our programs include community education, and we are so honored to have just celebrated our 5th annual signature event, Revive Refresh. It is a fun and engaging day of workshops, resources, and just overall love for family caregivers. Serving as the board chair in this role, I take great pride. It's a position that allows me to advocate for the conversations we need to have, especially in marginalized communities where Black women are statistically more likely to face dementia in their lifetime. This work is not just a responsibility, it's a mission that is deeply personal to me. And I dedicate it to my late aunt, who has really driven this passion for this cause. If you're looking to get involved, whether as a volunteer, donor, sponsor, partner, or if you're a caregiver in need of support, We love to hear from you. Learn more at IamACareWarrior.org. Together, we can make a meaningful difference in the lives of caregivers and their loved ones. As I'm setting up this space, y'all, I can't help but think about why I'm doing all of this. Why I developed Create and Flow the show. It's not just about sharing ideas or showcasing what I've learned over the years. It's about creating a space, a moment where people can come and feel seen, understood, and hopefully inspired. I want this space to feel intimate, like you're sitting here with me in my living room or just having a conversation. I want it to feel welcoming, like you can drop whatever weight you've been carrying at the door and just be present for a little while. Because I know that life gets heavy and we all have our doubts and insecurities. One of my biggest insecurities is that maybe people won't really connect with this, that this space, the show, the ideas don't land. But I also know that if I don't put myself out there, I'll never really know. And that's really what the show is about. It's about showing up even when you're unsure, even when you're scared, and trusting that what you have to offer is valuable. I created this show because I wanted to share the journey of what it's like to be a creative, a leader, and a dreamer. I wanted to show that it's okay to not have it all figured out, and that it's okay to learn out loud, to make mistakes, and to grow in real time. Like, I stand on that. And I want people to see the raw, unfiltered process of building something meaningful. My hope is that when people watch this, they feel a little less alone in their journey, and that they see it's okay to be vulnerable, to question themselves, and to have days where nothing seems to go right. I hope that by sharing my story, I can help someone out there feel a little more courageous, a little more inspired to keep going. So as I sit here, making sure lighting is just right and that sound is clear, I'm really just hoping that this space I'm creating reaches you in some way, and that it feels like a place where you can come to reset, recharge, and remember that you're not alone in this. We're all figuring it out one step at a time, and I'm so happy to have you with me.
So I want to share with you all what I've been working on officially, the Creative Flow Reset Club. It has become such a passion area for me, and I know why. For the first time in my entire career, I designed something to serve me first, and I'm standing on that because, you know, I found that over the years, being a more introverted personality, I tend to nest in my own space, and like really, that is my happy place. But I love community as well. I love being able to spend time with the people that I love, my clients, my friends, my peers. But I like it in like high volume, like very intense settings. Like I love to, usually I'm the one behind the scenes curating those type of experiences, getting to spend a whole lot of time with the people I love in small doses, right? So that might mean I'll spend a week with the people I love, and then y'all might not see me again for a few months, and that is just my jam. And I think that is something that, instead of thinking of it as a negative, I've learned to channel it and use it as a positive and as a strength more than anything. So fast forward, knowing that about myself, I wanted to bridge between those the time between those experiences, and actually create a space for me to foster my relationships on an ongoing basis, but one that I could still control, right? Like, I don't want to necessarily go into coaching again or one-to-one work. It takes so much out of me. I love it, and I'm grateful that it is a gift. But the truth is, I think I'm more of a group facilitator. I'm someone who likes to spend time with people and helping to move the energy and the intentions of the space forward into the same direction, right? Through alignment. And when you do that, I think when you have that skill, it can be a masterful thing to put into practice. And so that's what I'm going to do with the Creative Flow Club, Creative Flow Reset Club. I'm going to be able to create this space. It's already kind of in the works, like I'm in the earliest stages of it right now, where I have accountability sessions with the people that I love. We get to goal set with each other once a week. Midweek, we get to co-work with each other and like spend time together, but not have any requirements for speaking up or being on camera, just like a designated space and a container to do the work that might be otherwise being pushed down your list, to use that for your creative expression if you have that song you want to finish writing, if you have that project you're working on, that book chapter you need to do, like that is designated time that you can choose to work on that. And then at the end of that week, a place to celebrate our wins. And all of these being high impact, but like super low requirements from anyone. I want people to have structure. I don't want them to be rigid. And so the Creative Flow Reset Club is a place to have a weekly reset on Sunday, a midweek check-in, and an end-of-week celebration. So much more in between, from guest speakers and, you know, what I'm calling like our resident creatives who are going to come in. Like, we look at them and we're inspired by their ability to continue to show up in this world, but yet somehow they have seemed to, at least on externally how we see them, they seem to really have found their balance or their harmony in their life. And so I want to learn about the season that they're in, how they got there, and share that with people in conversation in this club. And beyond that, while this isn't a place to come and learn how to make $5 million in 5 weeks through your webinar, it is a place that if you are an entrepreneur, you can be with your peers and actually workshop your ideas safely and know that you're going to get like the guidance and the support from people who are maybe not 500 steps ahead, but simply 5. That's so important to me. It's something that I wish creators have more access to. It's something that I wish I had access to when I got started. So this is my baby. I'm building it out loud. It's not perfect. In fact, I'm in the stage where I'm only welcoming in like some founding members, and their role is to help shape this community, and the way that we will show up over the next few months is going to dictate how the next year, how 2025 will flow. If you're curious about what I'm saying, if you think this might be something you're interested in, please let me know. Like, reach out, feel free to like comment below and I'll share the info with you. But also feel free to come pop on over and like see us, like just see what we're about over at Creative Flow Reset. I promise you there's something for you, and this community is made by creators for creators. It's also made by a millennial creator who, you know, for the most part, like done a lot of work. So I don't want to have to go into a space and do a whole lot more. It should be a place that restores you. It should be a place that fills you up. And it should be a place where you can stretch yourself at a healthy pace and know that if you need that push, we're here to support you through that. So yeah, thank you for listening to me talk about my new community. Thank you for being a part of it. This channel is an extension of that. And I can't wait to watch it grow and have you come along the journey with me.
Hi, Rachel. Michelle McCain here from the Michelle McCain Experience, a safe space for women over 50. I just want to thank you, and I just want to tell everybody, please, please do not miss the opportunity to hear, share information, sit in a masterclass, join the community of this young lady. She is absolutely amazing. I felt so warm in her presence, and it was so relaxing to listen to her. It was just like sitting in the living room next to her, and it was fantastic. I took away a lot of information. I did the high five test immediately, and it was spot on. The pain points, the lead sheet, you could never hear enough about the lead sheet until you get it. And I just want to say, please don't miss the opportunity to get wisdom from this lady, because she has a lot to offer. Thank you again, Rachel, for your time, and your energy is very much appreciated. And I can call you a young lady because I'm 70 and I'm having a great time learning from all of you. We are very lucky to leave the world in the hands of people like you, and I'm very grateful. Thank you. Have a great day.
Next time on Create and Flow.
Can you see where I'm going with this as I'm doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's shaping really nicely, and I wonder
it is
moving stuff around until it feels really good. And then the way that you'll know is that you should be able to say, when you start with me to when you walk away, this is.
You have to develop some type of connection. I don't care if it's the janitor. I don't care if it's the driver that's driving the tour bus or whatever. You gotta treat everybody like they're all here.
Yes.
So you never know who could be a blessing to you and help you get to your journey.
Or who you're responsible for
help
exactly
get into their journey, and that maybe just because you don't see it, that hello,